Welcome back to another episode of the Jessica Ella podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Ella. I am Australia's leading women's trauma therapist and founder of Aruka Therapy, if you're new here. So today's episode, we're talking about how dating has become easier than ever in that we have apps and we have accessibility to people. Like we literally can look on an app and know who in our radius, in our 1 kilometer radius is single. It's easier than ever. So why is it so much harder than ever? Like why has it become so difficult? And the first thing that comes to mind when thinking about this subject and talking about this subject was that because it has become easier than ever, it's almost made us, one, lazy, but two, spoiled for choice, which sounds like a good thing because, you know, we want to be able to have access to a variety of different people so that we can find the person that is most suited to us. But what's happening is a lot of people are being so bombarded with options that they're actually getting into like a bit of a freeze response and a bit of a decision paralysis. So the reason I think that, and I can only speak from a woman's perspective here, but I think that there's a lot of things happening in the dating world now where people are being ghosted, people are being, you know, really triggered by the fact that somebody who they're speaking to is speaking to multiple other people or dating other people. There are so many elements of the dating world and of the modern dating world that are just really such a good opportunity to show us where we need to do the deeper work. And I know if you're a long-time listener, you're going to be like, here she goes again with the deeper work stuff. But it's so true. So I'm going to speak a little bit first before we get into like a bit of the how to navigate this whole situation. I want to talk about my experience and the way that I navigated dating after coming out of a 12-year marriage. And for me, it was a whole new experience. Like dating apps weren't really a thing when I was first in that relationship. I was 21 years old and had been with him for, as I said, 12 years. It wasn't something that I was used to and it was very much a novelty. And I very quickly learned, because I had done so much study around human behavior and I'd created Aruka Therapy and I'd worked with other clients who'd been on apps and who'd been through divorces, I knew a little bit about what was going on out there in the world. And so many people said to me, like, it's tough out there. It's really tough. Like you think that you've got a connection with someone and then they just disappear and you know, you feel like you've got all these options and then all of a sudden there's no options and you're feeling completely alone. And there's so many people who are finding that they're feeling rejected over and over and over. And they've got this like rejection wound that just keeps getting poked. And so the reason why dating is easier than ever but harder than ever is that, one, like I said, we have so many options. And the way that we perceive these options and the way that we perceive ourselves as being an option really has, if we have this low self-worth and we have these, like I said, rejection wounds, being seen as an option is going to be extremely triggering for you. You're going to be feeling like you're not special. There's nothing special about you if you're being treated as an option. And on one hand, this is like true and valid, and you know, your girlfriends will be saying to you like, you know, if he knew that you were the one, or if you know, he'll treat you right and he'll do this and he'll do that and he'll chase after you, and we get all this like messaging. But then on the other hand, what's also true is that you are an option, and so is he or they. Like the person that you're wanting to date is also just another potential option amongst many people that you're also speaking to. And I always found there was this like crazy double standard in women that were like, you know, men that were speaking to multiple women, but these women were speaking to multiple men. And we often do that. We often don't even realize that we're doing the exact same behavior when we're projecting our wounds onto somebody else. The way that I tackled the dating world was that I, first decided that I was going to have fun with it. I made sure that I was really comfortable being alone and like loving being alone and not feeling like I am alone in a negative way, but being so comfortable with that feeling of boredom. And boredom is a whole subject in itself, but boredom is what's really driving a lot of these connections online that are lasting longer than they should. There's people who know that you're not right for them and know that it's not a right match, and out of boredom, they're continuing a conversation because they're feeling lonely. They don't like the feeling of loneliness. Loneliness and boredom go hand in hand. If we can't handle being bored, it means that we can't handle being with ourselves and we can't handle that feeling of loneliness. So all of a sudden, we're talking to that person that we didn't really actually have a connection with, and we're stringing people along. So the first thing that I did was make sure that I was coming at the whole process from a place of I want to just have some fun. And I was really clear about what I was wanting to get out of dating, what I was wanting, like what the end game was. And this is where people don't start as well. Like, I can't tell you how many women I see writing like in their things that, this like really fun bio and like this really fun, like I just want a good time, when I know as clients of mine, I know that they want a serious relationship. I know that they have an anxious attachment style, that they crave love, and that they're putting this facade on. It's almost like they're like sirens trying to like lure them in. And then they show up as this different version as soon as they start going on a number of different dates and things fall apart. If people were just more honest and upfront about who they are, about what they want, this entire situation would be so much easier. Like imagine if people were brutally honest. Like, I just want sex. I am not interested in a relationship. And imagine if people could actually hear that, because I'm just going to call out a few women that I know now who have had men say to them, I just want sex. And they're like, that's fine, me too, even though they know that that's not what they want. They want a relationship because they think that they can change them. They think that they'll be the special one. They think that they'll be the chosen one. This is a toxic behavior. This is a toxic pattern. And this comes from your need to be validated, and your need to be chosen, and your need to prove that you're special. If you already believe that you're special inside, if you already feel chosen and you like love being you and waking up as being you, the person that you're going to be attracted to is not going to be the guy that just wants sex. You're going to be really honest about what you want, and you're going to hold a really high standard, and you're going to say, yeah, cool, totally, but that's not for me. So you can go and find someone else to have sex with, because I actually want a serious relationship. And we have the conviction and the confidence to say that and to stay with that. And so I'm kind of jumping back and forth, but for me, I made sure that I was coming at it from a good place. And I honestly, if you have come out of a long-term relationship and you have like literally within days to weeks opened the dating app and gone straight back into dating, that tells me very quickly that you're unable to be alone and that you're unable to be with yourself. And that there is a level of like requiring attachment to fill a void. We want to make sure that we're working on that void first. We want to make sure that we are, like the way that I see a relationship, or the way that I believe relationships should be, is that we already have this epic life and we love who we are and we love like what we do and for work and how we live. And then we meet somebody else and it's like a cherry on top. It's like icing on the cake. Like it should be an addition to your life and it should lift your life up, but it can't be the missing piece. If you feel broken and you're in half and something's missing and you need another person to fill that void, it is a recipe for disaster, because you're basically saying, I need you to soothe all of my wounds because I'm not going to fix them myself. This is like number one thing. We need to be fixing our own wounds ourselves, saving ourselves, working on ourselves, and getting ourselves to a point where we're feeling really good and really confident about ourselves. We're therefore also not going to be taking those rejections as hard. So figure out what you want. Work on yourself first. Give yourself that time. And when you're ready to start dating, if you have an anxious attachment style, and so many women that I know do have an anxious attachment style, or they have an anxious avoidant attachment style where they flick between the two. If you have an anxious attachment style, you absolutely need to do what is called abundance dating. Now, anxious attachment styles tend to cling to a person very fast. Like, I know women who just through messaging, they might be 5-10 messages deep on a dating app and they already feel a connection with this person and they've already made like an attachment with this person. Now, it causes so many problems because one, you actually don't know who that person is or like what they're like in real life. But it also means that what happens with the anxious woman is that she's kind of puts all of her other options to the side and she focuses on the one person at a time, because that hyper attachment to believe that this person is the person that's going to fix it all, it becomes really intense and the connection becomes really intense really quickly. And what happens is when that connection becomes intense really quickly, you miss all of the red flags. Because all of the red flags look like green flags because you're like, this person might be able to soothe all of my wounds and make me feel whole again. So we become hyper attached to that potential and that idea. but actually the person has given us all of the signs that they're probably not going to be able to do that. And we miss it because of that attachment and because we somehow go from seeing 50, like I think the first, I downloaded Hinge and with a friend, we were having a glass of wine and like, this is going to be fun. Let's have a little social experiment. I want to be able to pick from their first message what their attachment style is. And I want to I was like having a lot of fun with it and using it as research. But a lot of women from that first message like become so hooked by it and so invested in it that we forget that there's all of these other people there. I downloaded this app and there was, I can't even remember how many people. I remember opening it and being like, whoa, how is it even that many people that are single on the peninsula where I live? Like, I'm just going to put that down because that's a bit overwhelming. We actually forget that there is an abundance of humans in the world that are single that could be very, very suitable matches for us. We forget that there is an abundance of human beings when our anxious attachment style kicks in and we lock in on that one person. We forget about all the other matches that we had and we just put all of our eggs into one basket. Now what happens is, like I said, you miss all of the red flags and potentially for some reason there is this there's a huge reason behind it. I've talked about it in past episodes, but anxious are always magnetized towards avoidant because there's a part of them that wants that validation and the avoidant never quite gives it to them and dangles it along and it becomes this bit of a game. But the anxious woman just keeps trying to get that validation, or the anxious man, and investing so much into this one person, forgetting that there's all of these other people out here. So what we actually need to be able to do is zoom out and realize that choosing your life partner, choosing somebody that you want to spend the rest of your life with, or even just, a period of time, is an important decision. And we actually need to come at it from that place of it is a fucking experiment. It's a process. It shouldn't just be, this person looks all right, I'll start talking to them. Yeah, we've got some good banter. I'll go on a date with them, see how it goes. It actually needs to be so much more structured than that. We actually need to know who we are, what we want, how we want to live our life. And we need to be so fucking clear about that so that the people that are coming across our page know exactly where we're at and what we're about. And then from that, we need to be abundance dating, because when you lock in on one person, like I said, you forget that there's other options and you put up with behaviors, you miss things, and you put up with behaviors that you wouldn't normally put up with. Abundance dating means that you can actually measure, okay, I had a really good first date here, but second date and third date weren't that great. This first date I felt wasn't really sure, but second date and third date felt great. You've got a level of different experiences and different people to compare against each other. And I know that sounds like something that we shouldn't be doing. It's we shouldn't really be comparing people. Of course we should. That's we're trying to choose. We're trying to make a decision. We're trying to find a person. Of course we're supposed to compare people against each other, which brings me back to stop being so fucking triggered when they're comparing you to somebody, because you're doing the same thing and you should be doing the same thing. So we need to sort of take the emotion out of it and actually look at it as a really logical process to begin with. Because when emotions are high, when I need somebody, I need someone to fill that void. I'm afraid of being rejected. I'm afraid of being alone. I need someone to tell me I'm pretty, and I need someone to validate me, and I need someone to make me feel good about myself. And, getting those constant hits from somebody can become really addictive, where we continue on when we know that it's not the right thing. So abundance dating gives us that opportunity. So we have to also flip our perception around it, in that it's not that we're not being chosen. It's not that we're not special. It's not that we're not important when we're ghosted or when we're not chosen or when someone that we're talking to falls away. It's just that they had a process and they were talking to other people, and what they were looking for and who they were drawn to was somebody else, and it wasn't you. That doesn't mean that you're not enough. It just means that it wasn't an aligned match. And this is comes back to that, don't take everything personally. If we stop taking everything so personally and we look at it from that higher self perspective, I often, if I'm triggered by something or I'm really in the depths of a situation, I just imagine that I'm floating up above myself and I'm higher self consciousness looking down at the situation, and I ask myself what else could be true. And if there's always another truth there. There's always I was dating other people too. And I actually ghosted all of those guys over there too. So like, it wasn't personal about them. It was just that I liked this one more. And so we have to be able to zoom out and look at it from that perspective. And the only reason that you can't do that, the only reason that you're so invested and it's so emotionally charged is because of those past wounds. When you don't feel like you need someone else to like complete you and you don't feel like you've got this missing void, there's nothing there to fill, you can take your time. And this is where so many women I see, they rush that process. Dating feels hard because they want it to be fast. Dating feels hard because they want to jump out of one relationship and straight into the next. And it feels hard to choose because they're being ghosted mostly as well. But it feels hard to choose because they're erratic. They're not in an emotionally regulated, calm state where they're actually evaluating their options. It's just making a choice based off like, this person makes me feel really good because he, keeps telling me I'm beautiful. So I'm just going to go get some more of that feeling over there, not realizing that he's a walking red flag. But not because he said you're beautiful, but like probably, come on, there's probably some red flags there that you missed. And the thing with red flags is that they look like green flags when they're soothing a wound, or they look like green flags when they're familiar. When a client says to me, when we go through this journey of like, she's been dating all the wrong guys and she wants to break the cycle and we shift it, and she goes on a date with a really nice guy and she comes in and she's like, I just don't feel like he's my type. I'm like, fucking bingo. That's the one. That's the one, because your type is asshole. And so if he's not your type, that's a great thing. That's the words I want to be hearing. So now let's figure out why you don't think that he's your type. That's a whole other subject. Like, women and men that have been in toxic relationships crave toxic relationships. Healthy love feels boring. There's an episode on that. I don't know what number it is, but you can scroll back and find that. But what's happening is these attachment wounds from childhood are coming up. These attachment wounds of like, I need someone to validate me. I need someone to make me feel good because I don't feel good on my own. I need someone else to tell me that I'm amazing. I need someone to tell me how smart I am. I need someone to, like, we're just craving this hit because we can't give it to ourselves. So the first part there is giving that to yourself, as I said. So it's harder than ever because it's really holding up a great big mirror to all of our own patterns and behaviors. It's holding up this big mirror and saying, are you rejected? Did that hurt? Did that offend you? Do you feel like, did that make you feel like you're not good enough? Work on it. Did that bring up this huge feeling of like rejection sensitivity, people call it? There's no such thing as rejection sensitivity. Like, no fucking person likes being rejected. That is a stupid diagnosis. But did it bring up rejection? Okay. And what did it remind you of? What's that time that you got really rejected that is like still this open wound that's hurting? And if you shift that, and you shift this belief of like that it's personal and that people always reject you, and you actually believe that you're being guided all the time towards the right decisions and that anything that falls away wasn't meant for you, how much easier is that going to be? Oh, that guy stopped messaging me. Wasn't meant for me. Like, how much of a different perspective is that? How much better does that feel? That doesn't just come from shifting your mindset. That comes from doing the deeper work and using the dating platform as information around your own behaviors. Like, call yourself out. Like, do you start messaging someone and get attached instantly and stop talking to everybody else? That's an anxious attachment style. It's not because you have more chemistry with that person or they're the one, or there is just this massive spark and you think that this could be it, blah, 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 blah. It's because you have an anxious attachment style and you've just dove in headfirst really quickly because you're just craving love that you probably didn't get as a child. So we have to go back and we have to heal those inner wounds so that we can see things clearly, so we can be emotionally regulated, and so that we can use those experiences as evidence that we've got a deeper wound there to go into. And it's funny because like my personal experience was that I had, like I said, come out of a 12-year relationship. I was just wanting to date for fun. I was just like, this is actually going to be, like I said, a really fun experience. I had no desire in being in a long-term relationship, and I was very clear about that. I said, like, I ideally would love to date a guy for 3 to 6 months who is also like, maybe he's going to be going traveling or something, but we just have a really nice time together, like best friends, have fun, go on dates, have great sex, but there's no commitment, no long-term commitment. And it was actually a really difficult thing to find, because actually a lot of guys that I would say that to, it's like it switches something in their brain and then they'll be like, I think I love you. I think I'm falling in love with you, because it's like something that you can't have, which is a whole other thing. But it was actually really difficult to find because there was only a very small window of people that were open to that. Like there was people who wanted just to have sex and people who wanted long-term relationships, but there wasn't really anybody who was looking for something short-term. And for me, it was about it was literally on my bucket list, which sounds so funny, but to date a really nice guy, because I've had dated throughout my life so many assholes. Like most relationships that I had been in had been toxic, had been anxious avoidant, had been leaning in, pulling out, like pulling love away and then giving it back. And there had been this really toxic dynamic. And I was just like, I just want a guy who just makes me feel calm, who just calms my nervous system and makes me feel safe and grounded and happy, and we just have fun together and I can just fully be myself. And yeah, like it was a bit of an experiment, and there was a few guys that I dated that weren't that, and I, learned some lessons, and I was always understanding more about myself and the way that I was navigating the apps and the way that I was understanding how people work. And then obviously for those of you who know my story and social media and everything, I met Gav, who was in 4 months 3 months time from when we first met or when we first dated, he was traveling Australia. So I was like, perfect. He's nice, he's safe, he's loving. I already knew him. We met when we were 18, and it was just perfect. And then at the end of the 3 months, he left to travel Australia, and we were both like, fuck, I think we love each other. And now we're engaged and getting married this year. But my point is, like, you come at it and you're very clear about what you know, about what you want. And I was grounded in what I wanted, and I knew what I wanted, and obviously it just evolved, but he was too. And it was finding that perfect person at that perfect time that was wanting the same thing. And I think that we have to first get the courage to be really honest about what we want as well. I think so many of us are lying and pretending, and we're so afraid of being seen for who we really are. I remember in my childhood, like people used to always call me really intense, and friends used to say that I was really intense. Like, you talk a lot, you talk fast, you're just really intense. You talk about deep stuff. And I was always so offended by it and so upset by it. And now I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm intense. I love it. I love being intense. We have to be able to own those parts of ourselves. We have to be able to love those parts of ourselves, to put them out there, to be able to magnetize that right person for us. Because if we're hiding it, and we're pretending, then we're coming at it from a place of shame. We're coming at it from a place of hiding ourselves, from being afraid of being seen. And then we're going to end up with the wrong person, because what we're presenting and what's underneath is two different things. And this is why people present really well on dating apps, and then we meet in real life and a couple of conversations in, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, I can't wait to get married and have babies. But in their bio is like, just likes to have a good time. So we actually need to, like, people pick up on that, and they're like, whoa, this isn't what I signed up for. No wonder we're getting ghosted. No wonder we're like, women and men are finding that they're not able to find their person because we can't even be honest with ourselves about who we are and what we want in the first place. So if dating has been confusing to you, and it's feeling like it's harder than ever, the way to make it so much easier is to just be honest and to work on yourself first. Use every single bit of information every single trigger as a bit of information. Okay, that rejection felt really intense. Why did that feel so intense? Where does that come from? How can I work on this so that next time there's a rejection, I'm like, no, that doesn't feel great, but they're over there now and I'm going in this direction. Like, how can we start to use each of those triggers as information to go deeper and deeper into ourselves so that we can start to love who we are and be really honest about who we are, so that we can magnetize the right person, so that we can actually find that person that is going to love us for who we are, because that's all we really want. We want someone that's going to accept us and love us unconditionally. Like I said earlier, like our parents probably didn't. We just wanted that love and unconditional love and acceptance from our parents. We give it to ourselves, and then we find someone, once we've given it to ourselves, that mirrors it back at us. And I'm evidence of that. I have hundreds of clients that are evidence of that have gone in and have done the work, and then they've attracted that perfect person, that safe, loving partner that they were after, from a place of, I'm good enough and I deserve this, and this is how I want to be treated, and no thank you, that doesn't sound good to me. Or actually being able to identify the red flags and say, like, It's been really nice talking to you, but I don't think we're a good match. So simple. People can't, instead of ghosting, that's like how we need to be able to communicate openly and honestly. But I mean, the world in general has a lot of work to do before we can get there. But you can do that yourself. You can start being honest in your bio, in your communications, and honest with yourself about what your attachment style is, what your wounds are, and how you're showing up. If you love this episode, please share it with somebody who is single, who is struggling to navigate, who needs to do the inner work, and I'll see you in the next episode.